Okay, people, so I just made up a playlist and I thought I needed to elaborate on it because you might say, where are you trying to go with that playlist? What was the purpose of putting out a playlist, okay, that had companies that CEOs had taken over and made bad decisions? I mean, really bad decisions that almost you would think no idiot would do that, but they did it on purpose and they tanked the company. Now, you can say it's theory, but once there's so many of them that do that, it's not theory, it's a business model, people. Okay? Just like in trucking. In trucking, they make the money off the load you deliver the second you deliver it, even that day. They have contracts that pay them that day. Now, they have credit that they're floating the fuel on, so you can get as much fuel as you want, really. Most of these companies that have that kind of credit. But at the same time, they can't give you any money. Why? Well, because payroll is by their Thursday or their Friday or whatever their magical day that they set up as, and so they have all those weeks with that money that they've been getting paid. Why? Why are they sitting on your money? They're not. It's an interest-bearing account that's really tied to the stock market, and they have a promise to the bank. Just like if you go and buy a CD or a money market account that takes a certain amount every time out of your even a bank account or whatever, they have promised. Let's say that they make a promise like a CD, for example. You pay $600 minimum to get a CD. Some of them I think are $300. It stays in there for 6 years. If you take it out early, you have to pay a little bit of a penalty. If you leave it in there, when you're done, instead of it being, $600, it's like $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever. Okay, whatever the interest rate is. Okay. So, they have an agreement to keep that money in that account rather than to pay you. Okay? It's not in their best interest to pay you. So they set up a day that's so far out that it's going to be a while before they have to pay you. And if you mess up, you owe them. So they're guaranteed to get their money if you're buying the truck from them, okay? Or if you're a company driver, they're just going to pay you less. Either way, they're going to keep their money. So I'll go through this real quick. I'll give you what I call steps on how to build a company and then to make money destroying that same company. Okay? Bear with me, people. This is good stuff. First, you got to create a product. You got to make a widget or a what's it, whatever. Or if it's, trucking, if you've got a trucking company, there was a company that left all of his people out on the road, and it was their job to get the truck to Freightliner, and no way to get home, no money in their pocket, no check, no nothing. Crazy. All of us drivers helped to get them home. That's a whole nother video. We'll talk about that. We'll do a truck and haul of shame. I'll do a truck and haul of shame video. But you create a product, or you have drivers out there moving freight, or you have a company that warehouses. Some people just warehouse. They're like, hey, we're keeping it in cold storage. We've got refrigerated, units that keep stuff cold. Bring it here. And they refuse loads just to save money, even if it's a perfectly good load of cabbage or this or that. And then you got to turn around and, as a driver, you've got to take it to a dump or get rid of it somewhere. Or they'll even send you to a homeless shelter or this or that, which is smart, because there's nothing wrong with the lettuce or the cabbage or the tomatoes. They're just refusing the load because they want to, and they have the right to do that. A lot of times there's nothing. I've seen full loads of food, nothing's wrong with it. So let's go from there. All right. You have a product. Back to what I was saying. You have a product, then you need to hire the people to do the work. And you got to promise them something. What are you going to promise them? Well, we'll give you retirement. There's no more golden watches, people. Okay, there's no more guaranteed retirement. They say, if you work for us for 20-something years or whatever, we'll give you, a 401k. We'll take out of the 401k a certain amount of money, put it in a bank account. You can't touch it, but we'll give you interest on it, and there you go. And then they found a way to steal from your 401k, or the stock market crashes and you lose that anyway. So there's not a guarantee on that, but they got to promise you something to get you to do the work. They got to give you a set amount per hour, even if they pay a little bit more than the people down the road, just to steal their people at first and then drop your salary later. There's some companies that have done that. They put on the back of their trucks companies that were undercutting everybody else, and they put on the back of their trailers, we pay up to I think it was at the time it's 51 or 57 or 59 cents a mile or something like that for experienced drivers, just to get drivers in, because they had undercut everybody for the freight to get a bunch of freight, but then they didn't even have the drivers to cover it. Okay, then they made a deal with the railroad, and we'll talk about that later. The top 2 cars ride free, though, basically. So they needed somebody at both ends to grab it. But the deal is, they got to pay for the crane fee. We'll get into that. But back to the people. They need to get the people in, even if they got to have either lie to them or give them a high enough wage that they go there, and then when they train other people and things are going right, they'll lay them off and hire in cheaper workers. That's one trick they do. That's a trick, and it's true. So you can't, say, hey, I'm going to work here forever. That's your job at the time. It's a job, it's not a career. Okay? Even if it's skilled labor, it doesn't matter. You're only going to have that job as long as the CEO at that company, if he's the owner, or just I'd say the owner of the company if it's a small company, as long as he's alive, because his kids are not going to want to run it. They're going to want to sell it off for the pieces, or they're going to want somebody else to run it into the ground. They're not going to care about the workers the way that the original guy did. None of that. So you got the people now to do the work. All right. Oh, and you got to give them, you got to have Christmas parties. That's a little trick they do. It's a little mind trick they do. Let's have cookouts and Christmas parties and mandatory this and mandatory that. The more they can get you together and tell you that they're doing good, and look, we made $2 million, and pat you on the back and all this stuff, but yet they can't give you nothing more than a little couple dollar gift card for a bonus for Christmas or no more golden watch. Keep that in mind. They brainwash you into thinking that you have a lifetime position in this company because they've got enough money to throw around and have picnics. They're doing good, right? They're not doing good. There's a whole plan behind the whole deal. Once you get the people to do the work, you warehouse the product and you ship it out. Warehousing is where you take something, you put it up on a shelf, and it's labeled shelf A, B, C, D, and they may use numbers 1 through 100 or 1,000. You can go back to that place where you put it and find it later. That's warehousing in a nutshell. Sometimes it takes a forklift, sometimes it takes a cherry picker and a guy with a basket. It doesn't really matter. I call a crane a cherry picker. It picks the person up to a higher level because they've got racks that go all the way to the ceiling now. So, okay, you warehouse the stuff. Then you publicly trade it on the stock market. Once you've got enough money coming in and out, you publicly trade it. Once you can get it publicly traded, what happens is they give you money that they say that company's worth. If you can get it to where it looks like, even if you cook the books and make it look like it's a $30 million company, they'll give you 40% of that cash. What do you do with that cash? Do you give it to your employees? Well, you might give them a little raise just for giggles, just to keep them going a little bit longer. But you give it to the CEO. He's the sponge at the top. He's the one that got you there, so you give him that, right? Okay. Now that CEO is the one that made it big. Okay? Now he's moving in towards retirement now that he's did his job. There's another CEO coming in to do his job. He's the one that's going to tank the company. This is how that works. He's going to go and borrow more than the company is worth. Okay? He's the kind of like a fall guy, but there's going to be 2 or 3 of them. They'll make it so muddy and so mixed up that they'll say, well, he's got a golden parachute. Now, by the way, his contract, a golden parachute contract, is a contract that says, well, he gets paid $30 million if you have to fire him. Or he works there for 8 years or whatever, and you pay him how many a year, however much a year, but you still, just to fire him, it's going to cost you $30 million. They already know they're going to lose that. The company doesn't care. They know where it's headed. The high up people in the company, once they get rid of the first CEO, they know where it's headed. Okay? Now, because there's people that are buyers that are waiting to buy the stock for pennies on the dollar and sell off all of its assets in the end. They're waiting. They do that for a living. You ever seen the movie Pretty Woman? That's what that guy did. He went around and he was the buyer. He went around and bought up toxic non-liquid companies, or liquid companies that don't have a lot of money. I'm sorry. They don't have a lot of liquid money that they can touch. They don't have money in the bank, money, the stock went down, whatever, but they have assets that can be liquidated, that can be sold. So that's what the guy Richard Gere played a role of a person that did that. Okay, so let's go further from there. This other CEO, he borrows more money than the company's worth. Then, once they get it up way up high, as much money as they can borrow, they go bankrupt. Under that restructure of bankruptcy, okay, what they want to do is they want to restructure it so they can keep the company open, and they're going to not pay their retirees. That's the whole new contract, is they just write up a piece of legal paperwork saying that in order to make this money, this company lucrative again, make money, we have to have what's called concessions. That's a nice, pretty word that says you got to take a pay cut if you even want to keep your job. That's a nice, pretty word that says we don't care that you retired, you're going to get half that salary. It's a nice, pretty word that says, and all you new guys, you're not going to get any retirement. That's the new contract. But the CEO still has his golden parachute. Okay? All right. So, and you'll probably lose your health care and all that other stuff. Now, when they restructure and they lay off workers and stop paying retirees their pension, okay, that includes money they owe to suppliers who supply them with their product that they're warehousing, and payroll to retired workers that are already retirees. At that point, they want to move out of town. The people that are running the place, they want, or if they have a office in one place, they want to make sure that they're nowhere around that area, okay, because then things are going to go down and people are going to be angry at them. But they're going to sell off to firms like the guy that Richard Gere played that role. Sell off to firms that will sell the stock at pennies on the dollar, because they've went bankrupt so many times now. They're going to go full bankrupt. That's when that guy comes in. Okay, they're going to sell off the stock and all the equipment in the building and land and all of the buildings themselves. It takes a little time. First, they keep the stores open for a little bit, like Toys R Us stayed open for a while, like Circuit City stayed open for a while. And each one of them borrowed way more than they were worth on purpose. It's a plan. It's all part of a plan. It's the life and death of a company. there are steps that they do. There's always an exit strategy. Always. You already know what you're going to do from the time you start the company to the time you are going to sell it or retire. And when you sell it, you don't care that they're fixing to close the doors or fire all the workers that worked for you all those years, as long as you can sell that company for what it's worth. Most people don't have any kind of a contract that says, hey, this is contingent upon you actually keeping the same employees. And they may do that in some instances, but most times not. Okay. They will, like I said, they hire CEOs with golden parachute contracts, and they'll switch about 2 or 3 CEOs towards the end, so that not one certain CEO is the one that can be the fall guy. Oh, it was a couple of decisions by him, It's best to switch 2 or 3 of them, but still pay them a few million apiece. And they probably know them, and they could even be, in one instance I know for sure, ex-CEOs of a competitor that knows exactly how to tank that company, because he was the competitor's CEO. And he could be a plant from the other competitor, or he could be someone. I mean, either way they work it out, they know he's going to tank the company. Okay? And he's good at what he does. He was the CEO of the other company. And they can't give him a bad reference, even if they had to pay him to leave. They have to pay these people to leave the company. So they always have an exit strategy. And so that's the steps on how to start a company, build a company, and then make money destroying it. And that is the business model in America. That is the business model. There are some companies that exist out there today that the original people who built them are actually trying to build a legacy and keep them going forever. But just look at what happened to Toys R Us. Look at what happened with oh man, there are so many companies out there that have done the same thing. Now, like I said, I put a few videos up and put them in a playlist. That's what that playlist is about. That's what's actually going on. So it doesn't matter if you think you're working your way to the top of a company. It doesn't matter how hard you work. They've done so many people wrong on retirement. When you look at the mathematical probability of you making money off that company, the only thing you can trust is your bank account and how much money you can save up. You can't even trust the 401k. You can't trust if they say they're going to pay you a pension, because there's concessions. Who knew about that word, right? Look that word up. You know. So there's a lot to it. I thought I wanted to drop this video just for that reason. And then I've got another one in here on us in a second I'm going to go over. And I'm having a cigar. I hope everybody's doing good. If you're not doing good, like I'll tell you in a minute, quit your company. Because believe me, your company will quit you. That's all I got. Like I said, I got another video, a whole different deal, and I'm going to put it up. And I didn't want to go live. I didn't want to be distracted by the things I'm saying here by reading the comments. So make comments below if you want. But I'll put a link up to my playlist at the bottom of this, and you can look at it. It happens over and over and over again. That is a business model. It's not an accident. Y'all stay safe. I'm out for this one. I'm going to drop another one. Peace.